Welcome, everyone. I am Ken Clairbout, K4ZW. Glad you could join us this evening for our presentation, sponsored by the Worldwide Radio Operators Foundation. Most of you are probably familiar with how we run this, but if we've got anyone new this evening, we will be taking questions at the end of Mike's presentation. You're welcome to submit your question at any time. If you do send us one, I'd appreciate it if you'd put your call sign at the end of it. And there's a little questions box. You can blow that thing up, put your question in there, and hit send. And then at the end of Mike's presentation, we'll go ahead and take those. That's about all I have. So as most of you know, we have with us tonight the contest branch manager from the ARRL. I was going to say the new branch manager. Actually, he took over the position this past June, and it's Mike DeChristopher, November 1 Tango Alpha. Prior to taking over this new position, Mike did some work with the Logbook of the World and was also handling the awards and was the program assistant at the ARRL. So anyways, big year this year for Sweepstakes. We're glad that Mike could join us and take the time to put together the presentation. So with that, Mike, I'm going to pass it over to you. Go ahead and take it. It's all yours.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Ken, and thanks everyone for showing up tonight. It's always exciting to see how much excitement Sweepstakes generates, and it's a great part of my job to be a part of something that's such a storied event, if you will. And like Ken said, this year is a big one. This is the 80th running, so we have a couple special things in store, and it should be interesting. I expect some attendance will be up a little from last year, and that's a good thing. Before we go any further, I will say that I got to thank Larry K5OT, who is actually the Sweepstakes manager, and he couldn't be here tonight, so I'm filling in for him. I just push the buttons on in this contest, but Larry does a lot of work along with a good group of volunteers, and they're the guys who make this happen. So thanks to Larry and his crew. And also thanks to WWROF and Ken for putting these on. I used to always come to these and listen to Randy and those guys talk, and it's a great thing to have. For those of you who don't know, CW Sweepstakes is the first full weekend in November, so that's the 2nd to 4th, and phone is the 3rd full weekend. And this year, that is the 16th through the 18th. So make sure you mark those in and get ready to make some cues. It's going to be a big year. We'll start off here with a review. I know most of everyone in this webinar probably is familiar with the rules, but I'll touch on it quick in case anyone out there is unfamiliar. And nothing's changed from previous years, so we should get through this pretty quick and onto the interesting stuff. But, as you all know, each ARRL and RAC section, that's what you're working for multipliers. And I always say this is the season when I end up really beating on the rotors, because you're always between CQ Worldwide and Sweepstakes, you spend a lot of time spinning the beams back and forth. So that's this month. And of course, the famous rule, you can only work people once. And that's, of course, everyone knows that one. Makes for some long Sundays, but, and of course, y'all know the bands, and you compete within your category. That's an important one to remember. If you're new to contesting and new to Sweepstakes, you don't have to worry about slugging it out with the big guns like N1TA and N1TA. You can enter in your own category and compete with people with similar stations and similar interests. If you're a single op, that means high power, low power, QRP, no assistance. So that's no skimmer, no packet, can't use email, anything along those lines. We do have single operator unlimited, only high power, low power, but assistance is allowed. So you can use a cluster, you can use a skimmer on site, whatever your preference is. You can do that as long as you're unlimited. A side note on this, make sure in your logging software it's set up properly before the contest. You don't want to accidentally enter unlimited when you meant to enter single op and vice versa. That's probably the most common email I get is, well, I meant to enter unlimited. Can you move me? And so just double check that, set up your program early, and sort of walk through it, make sure everything looks okay. That's a big one for us because the single operator category is just a boy and his radio. So be sure you're not entering unlimited when you mean single op, and you're not entering single op when you mean unlimited. And of course, multi-op. This is another great one for sweepstakes because we have all kinds of friendly multi-ops going on, as well as some school and university clubs. Low power, high power, and assistance is allowed. And of course, one transmitted signal on the air at any given time, because there is no multi-2 or multi-multi in sweepstakes. So I know there's quite a few guys out there with the capability of putting 2, 3 stations on the air at one time. Just be sure it's one transmitted signal on the air at any given time. And also a reminder in this one that's relevant to the multi-op category, listening time counts as operating time. So if you're sitting there with headphones on, you're operating in this case. And again, that's all in the rules, so you can feel free to reference those. And maybe the most infamous part of this contest, of course, is the exchange, which some out there don't like it so much, and other guys love it. It's modeled after the traffic handling patterns early on, and I think it's still pretty relevant. Again, most of you know, but it's serial number, precedence, call sign, check, and section. For example, number 1, multi W1AW, check 37, Connecticut. And if you don't know what that stands for, the precedence is correlated to your entry category, and the check is the last 2 digits of the year that you were licensed. In my case, that would be 00, and no, it's not 1900, it's the other 00. So, but you will hear some real early checks. A lot of the school clubs that have been around a while send these wild checks, and it's interesting to hear. And of course, remember the call sign's part of the exchange. Please send it. This causes a lot of problems because you have guys who try to cut the corners, despite the fact that it says this in the rules as part of the exchange. If you cut the corners, sometimes you actually add time because the station is set up waiting for the call, and you send the check, and especially in CW, you'll have to send it all again. So please, 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 it's in the rules, please send the call. Of course, the awards, what you get for doing this, certificates issued to the top in each mode, top scores in each mode, in each category, in each section and division. Of course, that's the certificates, and plaques, the overall and divisional winners, get a plaque recognizing their efforts, and they're nice. They're very nice plaques, and it's a big part of the sweepstakes tradition. Of course, thanks to ICOM, they pick up the unsponsored plaques, and they've been doing that for a few years, and they've made many participants happy who otherwise would not have received a plaque. If you'd like to sponsor a plaque, it can be a weird one if you want to come up with some creative type of recognition. You're welcome to do that. You can contact me. My contact information will be at the end of the presentation. Of course, this being the 80th year of sweepstakes, we do have some special awards worked out, and we're excited about them. I've been working with both Larry and Ward and N1TA on these, and we think it's going to be a pretty big hit. The first one we're going to do, and this is geared for your sort of novice entrant, but it doesn't have to be. It could be someone experienced looking for just looking for that added edge. We have what we're anticipating calling the Participation Award. And this is an easy one. You print it at home, and you print out a sticker sheet. It'll be a standard Avery label size. You can affix the stickers for each achievement on the participation award. It'll look good hanging up in your shack, and it's a little more specific than the achievements represented in, say, a certificate. And this is something that anyone who enters will be able to earn the levels for it. Some of the ideas we've had are work 80 sections, work all 1930 sections, things like that. Work 80 sections between both modes, work more than 10 cues between both modes, things along those lines that are going to encourage participation. And this is something to talk about amongst your clubs and get your maybe some of your members who haven't operated from home for fear of not placing well. This would be a good thing to tell them, because they get something tangible that they can hang on the wall. And oops, I really meant just to get back to where I was here. I meant just to boost participation. And you'll see more on the website about this. It's just about to finish up in development. I'm waiting to get the proof back on the certificate, and I'll post the instructions and instructions, rules, everything like that on the website at that time. And this year we're going to have some fun stuff as well. We're actually going to have a 80th anniversary T-shirt, which is also in development or waiting on the proof back, and that'll be available right from the ARRL online store, right on the website arrl.org. And it'll be a good design. You can see in the upper right-hand corner the SS80 logo. That's gonna feature prominently, and it's a good-looking logo, and it's an important year. It's a big milestone for us. So we'll have those coming out soon. And of course, the clean sweep mugs featuring that new logo as well. And for those of you who have done this in the past, you know the way to order the clean sweep mug. It's we need a summary sheet showing that you have worked a clean sweep, and you send that to me directly, and my contact information is at the end, along with payment information. And the pricing and all that will be up on the website shortly as well. And that's a big thing. If you haven't seen last year's, it looked real sharp. I'm looking at mine here now, and it was black with a really well done logo on it. So this year is going to look even better. You got the SS80 logo, and those will be available. They are based on claim score, and so no worries. You don't have to wait for the log checking to be finished. And of course, the sweepstakes pens will be the SS80 logo as well, and those should be available shortly. So get on the air and make some contacts, and we'll have some fun stuff to show what you've done. And of course, most of you out there remember a few years ago the Ontario section was split up into 4 sections. And we've said this every year, we still get questions on it, but check your logging software before the contest. Make sure that it's set up for the proper Ontario sections. We had a lot of trouble with this the first year, not so much last year, but there were some cases where you could tell the participant used an older logging software. They weren't aware of the change. So in your contest clubs, it'd be a good idea to send a note out if you have an email reflector, and just try and get your newer members or your less active members to check on this. Make sure they have the most updated version of their software, and it's ready for the change with Ontario. And again, that's not a change from this year. That was a couple years ago, but please, please, please make sure. Of course, this being the 80th year, it seems only right that we take a brief look back at the history. Most people don't know that the November sweepstakes was originally known as the January contest, and the first running of that was in 1930. And you can see the issue on the right. That's December 1929, where they announced it. The image is sort of grainy, but it's a young man filling out his Christmas list, and it's tough to read. But he goes from sled, bicycle, baby sister down to rectifier tubes, 500-watt screen grid tube, and the last one there is schedule with W1MK. which at the time was the league station. So there wasn't an iPod on there or anything like that. This was back in the day when a 15-year-old kid would know what to do with a rectifier tube and a 500-watt screen grid tube. But I digress. We took a break during World War II. It was a tough period and not a lot of contesting going on. 68 original sections, and some of them have since that day gone through some interesting changes. I think the most notable is in the spelling of a lot of them. Back then, of course, Cuba and the Philippines were included after World War II with occupation. And Puerto Rico, which is a prime example of one that the spelling has changed. And of course, when you go back far enough, CW only, there's no phone quite yet. And we moved it to November in 1932. We shortened it because it was originally a 2-week-long contest. Now, I know a lot of us, especially those of us who will be active this weekend and worldwide, if you're putting a serious effort in, you're going to sit in a chair for probably upwards of 20 hours, maybe some of you upwards of 40. Just imagine a contest that lasts 2 weeks. So we did shorten that in 36, and of course it was a very different type of contesting that happened back then. But an added phone in 41. It would have been the first phone sweepstakes. And one thing we found over the years is that phone has actually historically been the more popular event in terms of logs submitted, especially in the last 15 years or so. And I'll show you some participation numbers in a little bit. One interesting caveat of history is this slide here, which I found in that December 29 QST. There's a lot of big debates raged these days about assistance in all of these contests. And this is proof that this is not a new debate. In fact, at the beginning of sweepstakes, assistance was assumed. You could write your buddy and set up a sked by mail. That was fine. No issues with that. So the assistance debate has raged for quite some time and become a little more stringent as we've had to. That's contest organizers of all types. But I thought that was a neat thing to see that even back then they were arguing over similar stuff. Now what I had here, I had a graph which didn't show up when I emailed it from home, but the numbers sort of showed the participation over the past few years since about 2001. And if we go back last year, we can see we did about 1,291, almost 1,300 CW logs submitted. Of course, by the way, these numbers are all in submitted logs, and not including check logs. Phone, we did almost 1,700, and that took a little bit of a dip from 2011. Of course, the other part the graph showed that was nice too was the dip we had in the club scores. So please kind of rally in your club and try to get your newer members on the air. This is a good one they can do even from home with low wires. And I'd really like to get that participation back up a little, especially on the CW side. Our high water mark was back in 2008, and 2,600 logs received on CW, and that was a big year. I think that was the only year going back to about 95 where CW overtook the phone weekend. At phone, we hit a little bit of a peak the next year in 2009, where we were at about 2,000 logs received for phone, and CW down around 1,500 in 2009. So it would be nice to get everything back up this year, and I anticipate it is going to be a big year, what with the 80th running. Some historical numbers, everything combined since 2001 is just over 20,000 phone logs received, and just a little over 17,000 CW logs received. So this is absolutely a popular contest, and certainly one of the most fun domestic contests, and one that it's great for your new members as well as the old members, so to speak, to get on and make some contacts, even if you only have that low 40-meter dipole. In fact, here I added a low 40-meter dipole. Last year we had some trouble working the close-in stuff on 40. So talk it up. Let's try and get the numbers back up there. And as always, if you have any questions on this contest or on any of the ARRL contests, you can get a hold of me by either address there, either contests@arrl.org or N1TA, that's my call, at arrl.org. And you can also call me. There's a good chance you might get my voicemail. I try to return all voicemails that day. But the quickest way to get a hold of me is email, because I can check email from home the night of the contest, and I can't check my work voicemail from home. So one thing I always try to do, and as a lot of you have found out, is the night of the contest, the Friday night of the contest, I usually keep an eye on my email. So if you have any last-minute questions like, well, can we do this? Is this allowed? Yes, and you can shoot me an email. I'm usually good about returning it. And since I operate most of these contests, it's not unusual that I send a reply back at 1 a.m., 2 a.m. local time here, as I'm just getting off my shift on the air. So please, if you have any questions, get a hold of me. That's the best way to do it. And like I said, that's the same information, same contact information if you'd like to sponsor a plaque. If you have rule questions or anything of the sort you'd like to, like I say, sponsor a plaque, rule questions, anything along those lines, the best way to get a hold of me is by those two emails there. And I'm usually at the office 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. I try usually on Thursday to be there a little later, so that those of you on the West Coast have some time when you get home from work to give me a call or an email. I can get right back to you. And okay, Ken, if we got any questions, I can take some of those.
Okay, very good, Mike. If anyone has any questions, we don't have anything in the queue right now, but if you have one, go ahead and fire that in, and we'll have a look at it. And I would just second what Mike was saying about participation and clubs, and even this is really an event for small stations. You can have a lot of fun, and if you're part of a club, and the club is putting in a big effort, quite often I'm member of the Potomac Valley Radio Club and past president, and we try to rally the troops every year, and this is one contest in particular where even the small stations can have a big impact, just in the contest, getting on and having more people to work. But as far as club participation goes too, the big scores are always needed, but the little guys help out just as much, and we push for every score we can get. I've always told the guys there's no score too small, so and you can do pretty well with 100 watts and wires and that sort of thing. So it's a good chance to get on and have some fun. Okay, let's see here. The first one comes from Doug, VE5 Charlie Mike Alpha. Will T-shirts be available before the contest so we can wear them while we operate?
Okay. Yep, that's something we're working on. I expect we should have them available in the store probably looking about a week out now. This is something we started on a little later, and it was a good idea that one of our volunteers came up with, and we ran with it. So not as early as we would have liked, but I'm hoping that they will be available. And I urge you to take a look at, and this is good for everyone, arrl.org/sweepstakes. Easy address to remember there. That's where I'll post anything relevant, links to the shirts, information on the Clean Sweep mugs, the participation award, and all that will be there. So you can watch those in the coming week or so, and I expect we should have some availability announcements to make.
Okay, very good. Next question from W4 Bravo Queen Fox. Wondering if you have any, based on current propagation conditions, you have any suggestions on which would be the best band to start, and also what would be the best band for Sunday afternoon?
Okay, and this is the great Sunday afternoon question that this contest seems to raise. What I tend to do in this one, and last year we got very, very lucky in that there was an early 10-meter opening, and I ran for a little while on 10 meters, and I actually worked Hawaii right away. That was, I think, my third contact, and that was the only Hawaii that we heard the rest of the weekend from here in W1. So my advice on this one is start as high as you can. It may be the only time 10 is open, 10 and 15 even. Given recent propagation, I think there's a real good chance 10 and 15 will be booming right at the start. And so start as high as you can and work your way down. And of course, Sunday is the thing about this contest. You can only work someone once. So Sunday is famous in sweepstakes for being a little bit of a slow haul. The advice that I give for Sunday, and this strays from your question a bit, but it is my favorite Sunday advice. If you've been mostly search and pounce all weekend, if you're a small station, a low 40-meter dipole, or just a G5 RV in the air, you haven't felt particularly loud all weekend, grab a band like 40 that isn't going to be real noisy during the day. Even 20 you can usually carve a space out on. Find a clear frequency and just run for a little while. You'll find that when you're doing search and pounce, you miss a lot of the guys who are only running, and you miss a lot of the other guys who are only searching and pouncing. So on Sunday, if you've been doing S&P, even if you're a small station, please get on, call CQ, and you'll be surprised how many guys are anxious to work you because you're a new call for them. So my advice for Sunday, and you can give this to your clubs as well, it's a great time for a smaller station or someone who hasn't been very active all weekend. Sunday's a good time to find some space on an emptier band where you're not going to be crowded, and just run for a little bit. And that, of course, makes it fun for the rest of us. And I think this year conditions are going to be great on the high band, so we won't all be packed onto 40 and 20. I think 10 and 15 are going to be very, very good. So make sure you check the high bands, and don't be afraid to call CQ.
Okay, and just to prove that we're not completely East Coast centric, if any of you guys out west want to shoot in some suggestions for those of you on the West Coast operating suggestions, I'll go ahead and take those here real quick. Next question comes from David, K4 Whiskey Charlie Charlie. He says, are the exchange contents you've shown tonight available somewhere in email form? I only had a brief look as I was late, and they look different from those on version 12 of N1MM. I will just add before you take that, Mike, because I've had a couple of questions. This presentation is being recorded, and we'll have it posted hopefully in the next 24 to 48 hours on the WWROF webpage. That's www.wwrof.org. And when you get to their webpage, there's a webinar link, and you can just click on that and see the presentation again, or you can fast forward to the part that you may have missed. So, Mike, you want to go ahead and chime in with anything on that?
Sure thing. The other thing too about the West Coast, before I get to this, yeah, I sort of familiar with this from W1, although I did spend some time in Colorado and got a flavor for it. But if anyone out west has tricks they'd like to send in to Ken, and we'll get those out too, that would be appreciated. As for the exchange, they are available online. Like I say, ARRL.org/sweepstakes, all one word, and they'll be available right in the rules. You'll see them come right up, and all the relevant information. I think maybe the deeper question is, what precedence am I, or what precedence do I send? And that's available in the rules. In the example, I think it was M, and M, of course, stands for multi in this one. So that's all in the rules. If you don't have access to the internet, you only have email or you only have paper mail, you can always send me an email, what you see on the screen there, or give me a call, and I can either email you the full rules, any information that you may need, or I can even snail mail them. There's just about enough time left in the contest to do that. If you get a hold of me quick and you need anything snail mailed, I can do that as well. And we'll get you all the information on that nice long exchange.
Okay, last call. Any other questions? And also, if you belong to a club, this may be a good opportunity if you're relatively new to sweepstakes or looking for suggestions. And given the current conditions, actually, right now they look like they're pretty good. It's always a good topic of conversation on the club reflector. Just put it out there, and some of the guys that maybe have a little more experience can offer something as well. Okay, we'll make this, I guess maybe the last question here from Greg, November Yankee 6 Charlie. Any recommendations on when to take your off times?
Okay, and this is going to be different in your part of the world, of course. Remember that off times in this one have to be at least 30 minutes. If you have a paper log, be sure you note when your off times are. If you send in a computer log in Cabrillo format, the log checking software calculates that for you, so there's no need to make any notation on it. As for when to take them, this one, that's sort of tricky. My rule here, and we've done multi-ops here for this contest in the past, what I tend to do on this, I don't have so much a fluid plan with the off times as I kind of play it by conditions. There is that nice point in time where 40 hasn't quite opened, 20 is starting to die, and that's a good time usually to go and get dinner too. So that's when we kind of take it. And the rest of the off time we do when we feel the rates are getting low and we got to recharge. And of course that's here in W1. It'll be different from your neck of the woods, and this is the perfect example of a good question that the local guys will have some sage advice on. Potentially voodoo, but probably some sage advice as well on when to take the off times. And this one is tricky because it is a domestic contest, so there's not really any point where you can't work someone on any band. So it does make it trickier. But ours traditionally has been around dinner time before we fire up the low bands for the night. But that's of course open to your interpretation, and be different depending on what part of the world, or I should say what part of the continent you're in.
I guess one other thing I'd add to that too is, I've talked about this in the past with our club. Some of it also depends on the strengths of your station. And maybe your antennas aren't quite as efficient on certain bands, and sometimes you want to play to the strength of your station as well. So a number of factors in there. But okay, excuse me. Looks like that's it for questions. So Mike, anything else before I go ahead and wrap this up?
No, I think I'd just like to go ahead and say thanks to everyone for coming out tonight, and of course thanks for holding this. Goes to Ken and WWROF for doing a great service to the community. And more than anything else, I hope to work all of you on CW and phone this year.
Okay, Mike. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to put the presentation together and for joining us. And I'm hoping we can have you back again another time for some other contest-related topic with the ARRL. And, it is a great time of the year. For me at least, I love this time of the year. The weather's getting good. Football contest season starting CQ Worldwide this weekend and rolling right into sweepstakes. So, encourage everyone in your club and nearby to get on, and we'll make some noise this year. Okay, thanks everyone for joining us. Again, as I said, it's been recorded. It'll be on the WWROF webpage. Let people know if they want to go and check that out. And at the moment, I don't have anything planned for future presentations. We obviously will have them, but I've just been working on a few things, but nothing definitive at this point. So you'll see it if you're either on the email list, or we'll put it on CQ contest, the usual places. We'll go ahead and list that. So anyways, thanks again, Mike. Thanks everyone for joining us. Have a great evening. Good luck this weekend. Good luck next weekend. Hope to see you on the air. So long, 73. Bye-bye.